Jimi Hendrix's habits are among the best habits to integrate into your guitar playing. Probably the habits that I have adapted most out of any guitar player. I've taken the most influence probably from Jimi Hendrix, and that probably goes without saying for a lot of guitar players. He was the best ever, after all. So in this lesson, I'm going to break down exactly what makes Hendrix so monumentally influential to so many of us. He kind of broke new ground in a lot of different ways, both on the lead guitar and rhythm guitar side of things. So I'm going to go deep in depth on both of those aspects of guitar playing. But I just want to remind you, in case this is your first time seeing one of these habits videos, I'm not going after the exact licks that Jimi Hendrix would play, or I'm not chasing his tone. Nobody can sound like these guitar legends except themselves. But with that said, in this specific lesson, I did actually try and get a pretty close tone to what Hendrix would use, just because I love Jimi Hendrix. He might be my favorite guitar player of all time. I have a picture of him hanging right there, and I think a lot of people really like his tone and can build from it. So if you're interested in what I am using right now, I've got this Universal Audio Apollo Twin, and I am running this Marshall JMP Plexi, which Jimi Hendrix used a lot, at least live. So I'm going to have that aspect of his tone going on. I also have a little pedal board here with a tuner, a Crybaby wah. I actually think he used a Vox wah, but hey, I need a wah if I'm playing Hendrix stuff. And also a La Machine, which is kind of like a fuzz face, but a little more modern sounding. Again, I'm not going after his tone exactly, but it's a little bit easier to tease out some of the habits of these guitar players when I'm close enough to their tone. So let's start with some of the rhythm stuff that Hendrix would do. As you heard there in that little intro, I kind of blended Little Wing and Wind Cries Mary. These things that Jimi Hendrix does, it kind of emulates a piano. He has these flourishes. Hendrix would take a normal chord progression like this, change it to something like this. So as you can hear, a lot more going on there. It's fuller, it is flourishing, it's just more interesting. And he was singing over the top of that, so you can imagine the type of effect that had when he was the first one to really do this kind of thing in a pop rock in the 60s. That's what it was, really. Context. So this is the complete breakdown of what Jimi Hendrix was doing. Some of you who've been following me for a while know exactly what I'm about to say. Jimi Hendrix relied completely, whether he knew it or not, on triads. This is a triad. This is a triad. This is a triad. These are triads. So all the stuff he was doing was based on triads. Major or minor was his preference, and he would use his thumb. This is another element of his guitar playing that a lot of guitar players have adapted, using his thumb for the bass note. So he had this claw approach, really popular with guitar players with big hands. The thumb kind of just tends to roll over there, and he was like, hey, well, I might as well use it for the bass. And that would also be conducive for these little flourishes. If you're noticing, my hand is hardly even moving at all, and I'm doing all this stuff. I've still got that bass note with my thumb. So this was his kind of position that he would ride up and down the neck, and it was all the action in primarily the ring and pinky finger. So triads are extremely important. You can learn all about triads, all different inversions and positions on all the string sets in my course, Guitar Super System, which is linked down in the description below. And triads are definitely the most foundational, fundamental part of all music, and I go in depth in that course, so check it out if you're interested. And I'm gonna show you basically a snippet of one of Hendrix's songs. We'll stick to Wind Cries Mary, and I'll show you exactly what he was doing with these triads and where they impact his playing. So here's our regular F bar chord. As you can see, I'm using my thumb here. You can also play it like this if you want to, but Hendrix would do it this way. Certainly a thumb habit. So we have root, major third, fifth. That is a major triad root position. And then we've got a third, fifth, root. So the third on top, that means it's a first inversion triad. So this whole riff here is built off of 2 triads. In between those triads, Hendrix is drawing from the F major scale. So we have this triad, and we have this triad, and you can see where the riff comes from. This note is from the F major scale, otherwise it's a triad. So with these 2 little fills, so it's really right down that scale. So that's what's called a double stop, when there's 2 notes kind of barred and ringing at the same time. This is all able to happen from this claw grip and the triad approach, because all these notes ringing together will usually sound good. And it's able to be moved. Say I move up here to the C. It's the same concept. Of course, that was kind of a minor element, but it's the same exact concept, just this bar shape, but you can change it to major. It's the same thing. And this approach would extend into his lead stuff as well. So we have here an F, and then we have that same riff. So it's the same ideas happening, but in a lead context. Pretty awesome. It's almost as if his rhythm guitar playing was lead guitar playing. So triad arpeggios are also really helpful for understanding the kind of roadmap for integrating this type of approach into your rhythm and lead guitar playing. So if you want to play rhythm guitar like Hendrix, you definitely need to learn your triad shapes. Again, that stuff is all available in my course, Guitar Super System, linked in the description. So moving on from this rhythm stuff into a little bit more crazy lead stuff that Hendrix was known for, I'll kick on a little bit of this Octavia style fuzz. You know that really satisfying bend from D to E on the 15th fret that we all love to play? Hendrix pretty much invented that. Obviously, I'm being a little dramatic. He didn't invent a note, but he might as well have. I think of Hendrix every time I hit that screaming bend. So I think that the key to Hendrix's lead stuff, we'll get into a little bit of the theory side of stuff, but really the attitude that he has. I've read a lot of interviews and people's accounts of meeting Jimi Hendrix where they said he was like timid and shy, but when he got on stage, he transformed into this like mutant guitar god, and it really shows in his guitar playing. So perfect bending technique with angry, erratic vibrato, I think was definitely a trait of his, a habit, and he obviously had his thumb over the neck, again, when he would do his bend, so Hendrix's bending technique was heavily reliant on this claw grip again, and he would use this thumb here. If you can see, I'll zoom it in for you. This is the kind of anchor for the ring finger, which is typically his bending finger. So he would get the pitch up there and then start the vibrato. And then when you kick on that fuzz, that's where the attitude comes in. So if you notice, there was a little technique in there. Let's take the E minor pentatonic scale. That was one of Jimmy's favorite positions and keys. E flat, depending if he was down a half step. But he would take, let's say we're in this E minor tonality, and we take the D flat, which is the 14th fret of the B string, and bend it up a half step, again using this claw grip. And at the same time, we are catching with our ring finger the G string on the 14th fret and bringing it down at the top of the pitch. So it's something like this. So here's another look. Focus on the G and B strings of the 14th fret. You can do this anywhere. Say you're in the B pentatonic. How about F sharp? And of course the exclamation on that phrase that I kind of intuitively did just because it's so ingrained in me. That's a very Hendrixy little move. So we will move on to the Hendrix chord. I have to mention that, right? This is just a sharp 9 chord that Hendrix apparently invented. I don't actually know the story behind this. Maybe you guys can enlighten me in the comments. But I guess he was the first one to prominently use it. We have a root, major third, flat 7, and then here's the sharp 9. Obviously you'll recognize this from Purple Haze. Whoa, getting a little carried away there. So the Hendrix chord, gotta know that one. I'll end this video in that vein with the wah techniques that Hendrix would use. Of course, he was one of the pioneers of the wah effect. So of course you know this sound, right? So using just rhythm. Rhythm was really the defining habit that Jimi Hendrix would hone. He was an amazing rhythm guitar player. You have to be if you're a front man like that. Some guys who come to mind, obviously Stevie Ray Vaughan is the guy after Hendrix that I consider the best rhythm guitar player of all time, but Hendrix certainly paved the way for him, and John Mayer afterwards is also an excellent rhythm guitar player. Those three guys kind of fit together. I've done Habits video now on all three of them if you're interested in checking out the others, but the rhythmic elements of Hendrix's guitar playing are really accentuated by effects, notably the wah pedal. So while we have that type of voodoo child style, we also have the machine gun style. That sound is so Hendrixy. So we've got this bend, and he pulls the mouth back at this very precise moment, like he really is talking through his guitar. So really, that's kind of an innate thing. It's an innate habit of his to really be vocal with his melodies. So it's something that you have to be conscious of. I talked about in my Habits of John Frusciante lesson that it's really difficult to convey and teach melody. The best advice I can give you is just to listen to a lot of, whichever guitar player you're trying to tease out the habits of, and get a sense for what type of melodies they tend to go after. For Hendrix, of course, it was really pentatonic heavy, but it was the accentuations in his effects and his bends that would really give him that defined voice. So guys, those are the habits of Hendrix. I am sure there are more, but those are the ones that I think you can get started with. Understanding triads and really integrating them into your rhythm guitar playing will totally expand the landscape of what you're playing underneath, whether it's vocals or a lead guitar melody. Again, you can learn all about root position, first inversion, second inversion, triads, major, minor, augmented, and diminished, and their arpeggio shapes, and a host of other awesome guitar stuff in my course, Guitar Super System, linked down in the description. We also went over Hendrix's bending habits, his kind of Hendrixy voice that he tends to let out in certain lead situations. And we also went over the effects that he liked to use, wah pedal, fuzz in particular, which would really contribute to his Hendrixy attitude that influenced all of us, whether we know it or not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, keep shredding.